season. We just heard Field Yates say he'd take Derek Carr over Flacco this season in the AFC West. Lewis, what are your expectations for Oakland this year?
Yeah, I expect Oakland to be one of those teams that's going to surprise a lot of people. Look, they did everything that they possibly could this past year to improve this football team, both along the offensive and defensive line and as far as the skill position players that they have, so they can be a more traditional power team when they need to, and they can be more explosive scoring points and stopping people from scoring points against them. Look, from a personnel perspective, I mean, Trent Brown, signing him to the massive contract that they did to play right tackle for them is something that they needed to do. Drafting Josh Jacobs to play running back for them from Alabama is something that they need to do. They have that guy now. They have that guy they can control the ground game with. Trading for Antonio Brown was a necessity. Now, you have one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League, and in the draft, they needed to address pass rush. They drafted Cleveland Ferrell out of Clemson. They draft Max Crosby out of Eastern Michigan. So, I mean, they have two young guys that they can bring into the fold. They draft Trayvon Mullen at corner, so now they have some more speed in the back end. They draft Jonathan Abrams out of Mississippi State. I can go on and on and on. These are good young players. Now, it's up to John Gruden to go ahead and put this all together. There is no reason why I believe that Oakland can't be at least an 8-8, 9-7 type of football team, if not more. Worst to first turnarounds are something that happen all the time. They play in a tough division. I know it, and I believe it's Kansas City's division to lose without a doubt. I think Kansas City's going to be a Super Bowl contender, if not a Super Bowl participant for the AFC. But Oakland right now, look, there are a lot of expectations out there. It's not hope. People aren't hoping Oakland's going to be good. People expect them to be good, given some of the things that they've done that they're really not getting a lot of credit for. And I'll tell you this, that opening Monday Night Football game, I'm going to plug it a little bit because I'm going to be there and I'm going to be talking about it. That's going to be a good football game between Denver and Oakland. I've been in that rivalry. I know how hot that thing is.
I have a lot of respect for your opinion. So when you, especially given your track record in recent years, when you say something like that, I take that very seriously. I'm going to be watching closely. However, even if they surprise teams, I think it's going to be hard for them to get to a 500 record or better. And even if they do surprise everyone, they can still wind up last in the division because of the division they're in. You have two 12-win teams in the division. I realize that's last year. But they are returning a lot of the same key personnel. Some guys obviously missing off the Chiefs. They have Patrick Mahomes. That's your guy. I mean, and he's like a superhuman Aaron Rodgers level type of talent. I find it hard to believe they're going to fall off. Chargers are going to be good, I think. And so it comes down to the Broncos and the Raiders. I look at the Broncos season last year. They lost. Talk about the losses they had that weren't road losses. They get close with KC at home. They lost by 4. With the Rams by a field goal. Lost close to Houston, 2 points. Those are the home losses. Then they got blown out by the Chargers. The season was already over. The point is, they have a real home field advantage that a lot of teams don't. And they're not just returning a defense, but they have a defense which on paper could maybe be, especially considering the coordinator, a special defense. The Raiders are stockpiling talent. They're going to move to Vegas. I get it. And at that point, maybe. But at this moment, I don't see how. I mean, it's possible. I think they're 4 out of 4. Fourth team out of 4 teams.
Yeah, I agree with Max on this one. I think that Derek Carr, first of all, you always start with the quarterback when you talk about a team. It doesn't even seem like John Gruden believes in the quarterback. So it's hard for me to believe in the quarterback when it doesn't even seem like the head coach believes in him. And I think bringing in guys that you mentioned Josh Jacobs and you mentioned Antonio Brown, they're impactful guys, and Trent Brown is the big name because a lot of people get excited about what's happening on the edge and the big names on the outside, but where they were bad last year was up front on the offensive and defensive line. And I was listening to you, Lewis, very carefully, and you said they did everything they could to address their problems up front last year. I agree. They did everything they could, but I don't think that was enough, particularly on the defensive side. Their defensive line play was horrendous. It was amongst the worst in the league. It was 30, if not 32, amongst the teams in the league. And I don't think that bringing in Cleveland Ferrell is going to change that. And you mentioned a bunch of other players that they drafted and assuming that those guys are going to pan out. Just because maybe you like them or they like them in college doesn't mean they're going to pan out. Those are a lot of question marks that they're going to be relying on that defense. And I feel like Joyner may be the only name on that defense that I look at and I know that dude can ball. There's nobody else. There's a lot of guys who are like, maybe, I hope, there's potential. I like what they got going on there, but it's nobody there I can believe in. And then back to the original point about Gruden and Carr, more on the Gruden side. Gruden's a Super Bowl champion coach, and he managed to finesse the hell out of the situation and get this $100 million contract. But we haven't seen any evidence that he has modified his coaching style to be ready for the modern NFL. There's nothing that he's done in his seasons back with the Raiders that we can point to that people were saying, hey, what Gruden did here was incredibly innovative, so don't worry, because Gruden's going to put all these players in a position to make plays. I don't believe it. And then you all put that against the backdrop of the thing that you guys both mentioned, is they got to play Patrick Mahomes twice a year. They got to play Phillip Rivers twice a year. And they got to play in Denver at least once and play the Broncos again, which they might have they will have a slightly better quarterback situation.
Oh, look, as much as I like Vic Fangio, and I'm one of the biggest supporters of Vic, I thought he should have been a head coach a long time ago. Look, there's a lot of question marks in Denver as well, especially if you just want to start at their quarterback position. You mean to tell me right now anybody's going to sit there and ride with Joe Flacco and say, well, they got Joe Flacco, They're good to go? No, their offensive coordinator, his name is Rich Scangarullo. Has anybody heard of him? Anybody know him? Yeah, he was the quarterback coach last year for the San Francisco 49ers. He's never been charged with that kind of responsibility. So do we know what he's going to do with Joe Flacco? Do we know how he's going to develop the young quarterbacks that are behind Joe Flacco, naming their second-round pick? Do we know how that's going to go? No, we don't. Now, on the defensive side, they should be solid. I get that. And Denver has been a thorn in Oakland's side for years. They were a thorn in our side when I played there back in the late 90s. So I get that.
I mean, a thorn is insulting. Like a thorn in your side. Yeah. When I played in Denver, we were not a thorn in the side. We had no complaints about Oakland. They were an afterthought.
I get you. I get you. But you know what? But here's the thing, though. Here's what we're trying to do, though. Right? This is what we're trying to do, Dominique. We're trying to spin this bad boy forward. And what Oakland has done is, look, I know you talk about the defensive line. There's a reason why they draft Cleveland Ferrell as high as they do. They expect him to come in and be one of those people who is a pillar player for them on the perimeter. Perimeter rush is where they had nothing. They had no push on the outside last year. They had no speed, no playmaking ability. They were okay. They were all right with their defensive tackles, how they thought they would be, but they needed some push on the outside. So him and Max Crosby, I know they're young, but they're going to have to play, and they're going to have to play well. Vontaze Burfict, I know people are going to sit there and roll their eyes and go, yeah, if he can stay on the football field for 16 games and not get suspended, he's going to have to play on that second level and be a pillar player for them. Trayvon Mullen, their second-round pick from Clemson, is a stud. Jonathan Abram from Mississippi State is a stud. And I'll tell you this. Now, I know these are all young, unproven players who people say, well, they haven't done anything in the NFL. You're right. There's been a lot of rookies who didn't do a lot of things in the NFL because they had never played in the NFL. But as rookies, all of a sudden during the season on shows like First Take and on SportsCenter and NFL Live, we're going, man, this guy's good. Man, this guy's catching us off guard. These kids are good players. Here's the question. The question, though, is this. If people want to really put the spotlight on someone, it really is on John himself. It is on Paul Gunther, the defensive coordinator. Those are the people who have to deliver now, because really the front office, in conjunction with the coaching staff, has delivered for this team as far as doing all they can in one season. They delivered.
We are definitely going to be keeping our eye on the Raiders. Doesn't sound like expectations are too high, and to really cement those low expectations, according to ESPN's Football Power Index, the Raiders have only an 11% chance to make the playoffs.
But now that Lewis has said this, I'm going to have my eye on.
Hold on.
Those are the lowest in the AFC. We're all going to keep an eye on the Raiders.
We got to pin Lewis down, though.
Expectations are low. Lewis, thank you so much for joining us.
We both said they would
be
last.
pinning me down.
You got to pick a spot. First, second, or third, fourth. Where are they going to be in the division?
I got them fourth,
too.
Guys, it's time to go to break. We'll continue the story in the break. Coming up next on First Take, the biggest athletes took the age challenge last night, and we took our own First Take age challenge right here on the show.
That's an actual picture of LeBron like today.
Hater.
The King served people his new $1 crispy taco.
Burger King taco. I didn't know they made tacos.
It's super crispy.
It definitely hits the spot. It's a flavorful taco.
You mean to tell me it's only $1?
Talk about a surprise. It's Burger King's new $1 crispy taco. Only at Burger King.